how is this network growing? What is going to derail that? Is bad news about Tether going to derail that? Highly unlikely. Is regulation going to slow it down? Well, I think regulation speeds up adoption, because then NatWest won't be saying, oh, don't use Binance. They're like, okay, fine, you do what you want, here's the rules. So it's very difficult to find a world where adoption goes down. And at this pace of adoption, it feels very difficult indeed. So I just try and stick to first principles, keep out of all of this, because everything sounds amazing and we don't know what's going to go to zero and what's going to go exponential. But generally, it's that network adoption model. That's the truth. I think there's bigger things changing. And so there is a lot of protection around the central bank digital currencies. We're seeing the same kind of noise from the ECB. They're struggling with it because on one hand, they want to be open and build an open system on which others can develop, but it's moving so fast they don't know what to do. What I'm trying not to do is get in the middle of it, because we all know that there is a fight going on between how people want to regulate the space. We know regulation's coming, so I'm just kind of observing it. I'm not a US citizen, so I can't call my senator or my congressman or do what I can't do anything about it. And I kind of think these things just have to play out. Yes, if you can get behind it, get behind it. The craziness is clearly somebody has a bugbear within the current government administration that they want to use crypto and kind of beat it down. Again, it's no real surprise to any of us. If crypto is a competitive product to both aspects of government, the financial system, and many other things, of course they want to throttle it back as fast as they can. I mean, they're so far behind in regulation. I mean, I don't fear the regulation currently of securities versus non-securities. The big fear is they haven't even started DeFi yet. When they do that, it's going to be a bloodbath because they really don't like this, but they're so far behind it. And then they've got to get onto NFTs, and then they've got to get onto community tokens, and then they've got to figure out DAOs. I mean, this ongoing battle is not going to be a battle that's won today or over the weekend, depending, which vote goes through. It's actually going to be a battle that we will see and be fighting for the next probably 7 years.
I want to get exposure to this space because I want a long-term investment. I want to build a significant thing like I would have done to my 401k, or in addition to my 401k, then that's a different conversation. Then what you would do is start looking for portfolio allocation, which is, okay, safety first. You want the highest quality product with most of your money in it. So that would be Bitcoin. And then you probably want Ethereum, a decent size, because the network effect and its use cases are so enormous. And then after that, you start thinking like I'm thinking. It's like, what do I know about the next part of this? Do I have any informational edge? Do I just buy the Bitwise 10 and just do that? Is that a smarter way of getting that investment? Probably. And then maybe in a couple of years' time, when you're starting to understand areas that really excite you, it might have been DeFi, it might be social tokens, it might be anything.
If networks are valued in a certain way, then let's just go back to first principles. Okay, how is this network growing? What is going to derail that? Is bad news about Tether going to derail that? Highly unlikely. Is regulation going to slow it down? Well, I think regulation speeds up adoption, because then NatWest won't be saying, oh, don't use Binance. They're like, okay, fine, you do what you want, here's the rules. So it's very difficult to find a world where adoption goes down. And at this pace of adoption, it feels very difficult indeed. So I just try and stick to first principles, keep out of all of this, because everything sounds amazing and we don't know what's going to go to zero and what's going to go exponential. But generally, it's that network adoption model. That's the truth. Whenever I start getting a bit of a wobble, the market falls, and then there's the ESG, and then there's China, and then there's this, and then there's that. We've been through quite a lot in the last, 5 months. But I step back every time and look at the chart of adoption and look at the fact that it's growing twice as fast as the internet did with the same number of users back in 1997. The internet was growing at 63% a year, and the entire digital asset space is growing 113% a year. And just realize that this is the fastest growing adoption of any technology in all recorded human history. And all of this stuff we're seeing is noise. And that really helps me all the time is like, if you just figured that out, that simple thing with Amazon, you could also have been the richest man in the world along with Bezos. But nobody did, because we didn't understand these network models. We didn't understand, just trust that log chart and that's fine. It should just continue like that, as Facebook has since 2012. Same log chart, never moved. But some of those big moves are up and down 50%. But in the end, it's all noise. Now, Facebook's had all the regulatory hurdles, they've had competitors, they've had all their S-curve moments, and yet adoption goes up. And so that's kind of how I look at it. Yeah, I get it. I observe it, much like you observe the positives like El Salvador, you observe the negatives like ongoing regulation, and realize this is just all part of the story. The other easy one for people who don't really know how to do that is, there's free charting platforms like TradingView. You can just chart a log chart. All exponential assets basically look like a beautiful trend channel in a log chart. So Facebook looks like this, Google looks like this, Apple looks like this. Well, actually, when you're creating the log chart, they're this lovely linear trend, log trend, and Bitcoin is the same. And if that changes, that log trend from 2010 till current day, if that changes, then you can reassess. If not, the ups and downs, the noise, all of the screaming and shouting on social media, forget about it. Just follow that chart. And one of the things I talked about was the blending between central banks and government. That's what Yellen is, right? She's the blend because she's the central banker who's turned into the government. And central bank digital currencies are that path, is to get rid of the independence of central bank because you kind of don't need them because they don't set interest rates any longer. So therefore, money from Treasury in, money from Treasury out. And therefore, Treasury funds itself in the same way. So I think there's bigger things changing. And so there is a lot of protection around the central bank digital currencies. We're seeing the same kind of noise from the ECB. They're struggling with it because on one hand, they want to be open and build an open system on which others can develop, but it's moving so fast they don't know what to do. And again, I don't think the central bankers have figured this out. So it started, I've been involved in Bitcoin since first 2012, 13, and I get the value proposition. I get what it is. It's perfection as an asset and it's store of value. And yes, it's still too volatile to be a store of value, but it's compensated by the fact it goes up a lot. So, we don't mind. We have to accept the volatility. Okay, that means all derivative contracts, which are complicated and messy. And we knew it when Lehman blew up. Nobody knows who owns what. So I'm thinking, wow, okay, that's all of finance. Probably there's custody and there's clearing and these are a lot of things. Now, what's different about this time around is this trend is a secular trend that is exponential. So actually none of us have been given this before. If you look at wages, there's been no inflation over the last 40 years. If you look at asset prices, they've gone up a lot. If you look at food prices, they've gone down. If you look at electronic prices, they've gone down. And everybody points to the thing that's gone up for them and say, see inflation. The two key things have been, and with technology, it'll go massively negative. So why is education now deflating? Demographic. We've just put the pig in the python and it's come through the other end, which is the millennial generation. So the demand for education has gone down. It's like obvious. So why are we left with healthcare? Duh. We've got the oldest population of the largest group, which is the baby boomers, and they need all the healthcare and they haven't paid enough in premium. So of course it's going up. So that's nothing to do with government or anything else. Sure, government regulation could lower, is that if you continue with the maths of the adoption, we get to 1 billion people by 2024. That to them will feel like they're losing control really far.